You got a minute?
You must be part of my hangover.
And I hope the wax in your ears didn't stop you from hearing, pal.
I'll remember your face.
I'll try to forget yours.
What about the bartender?
I let him have it over the head with a peanut machine. Run along, darling, before I fracture your spine.
Is the gun loaded? You want to find out? No, I'm happy you're just guessing.
You don't have to say anything and you don't have to do anything.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
If you're the police, where are your badges?
I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
Hey, Carly, how's it going?
It's cold.
Is it cold? What's the weather out there like? I mean, like, is it raining cold or snowy cold or?
It's just cold. We keep having like a daylight of sunshine and we're like, oh my God, let's go and buy flowers. And then the next day it's raining. Mm-hmm. And then the day after that, it's like nearly frost. And then it's sunshine again.
So we're getting like 5 days of that, of like sun, and then like the weekend will be raining. So it's like every weekend it's like raining, which sucks. And that's kind of like the problem with the film that we're doing too, is that like even like I just checked the weather just a minute ago. We're supposed to shoot this weekend and it's raining 100% both days, Saturday and Sunday, which is horrible. Yeah. So, but we'll see. That could change. It changes, so quickly. But
that's true.
The weather is so unpredictable, annoying. But
I bought a tomato plant that I really want to put outside, and I keep going, right, I'll put it outside, and then I can't be bothered because I'm lazy. And then the next day I think, thank God I didn't put it outside because there's a frost. Tomatoes.
I feel you on that. We brought a pineapple home from Hawaii, and we were gonna plant it, and so we we went to like the Dole pineapple plantation thing, and like pineapple doesn't taste the same from there as it does like from the store or from a can or anything. It was like really good, so we bought one and brought it home to plant it, and we planted it, but then we've kind of left it alone, and it's slowly dying a horrible death because we both really suck at we have no green thumbs in this family, so yeah, is what it is. I guess we'll just keep buying cans of pineapple.
Yeah, I mean, my front yard is just literally, it's just like the bones of all the plants that I thought I could grow.
The bones
turning into mulch. Yeah,
right.
And then they look good for like a week, and then that's it.
Yeah. Here lies Daisy. She was a beautiful Daisy.
I bought an aloe vera plant, and I've even managed to somehow, like, that's on death's door. I don't know how.
Don't those just like live on their own? Like, you don't even have to mess with those? They're just like...
Exactly. So what have I done to it, Jason? Why is Vera so sick?
Are you feeding it beer or water?
I don't share my beer. So definitely not beer.
That makes sense. That checks out. Well, we're going to keep our banter to a limited, a limited ear bleed today because there's a amazing interview that Carly has done with the actor, the main star of the film that we're going to talk about tonight. And so we're not going to talk your ear off. We're going to jump into the drink pretty quick, but stick around after our rating of the film tonight and check out this amazing interview with the star of the film and Carly, of course. And there's a gentleman that came in to help out with the interview as well. Carly, could you fill us in on that?
Oh, my friend Aaron.
Yay, Aaron.
That was kind of it. Yay, Aaron. He has his own podcast as well. And he's just lovely.
What's his podcast called?
Last Jedi on the Left.
Do you say The Last Jedi on the Left? Like The Last House on the Left?
Yeah. What should be The Last Jedi on the Right now? Yeah.
But it's like Jedi because is it a Star Wars podcast or is it a horror and Star Wars?
It's just a film podcast.
Oh, it's just about film in general? Nice.
Yeah, they cover loads of different films. I think at the minute, I'll check now for complete accuracy, but it was going in timelines, so sort of like 90s. Let me find out right this second for you, Jason. Why is Spotify so complicated, by the way? Just want to find it. It's in my list.
I don't know. I hate Spotify. I paid for it for a little bit, but like the app sometimes like wouldn't even open, and I hate how they pay artists, and so I canceled it. I think it's a really shitty service. Tidal is where it's at.
Last Jedi on the left. Yeah, and they're doing 90. So they've done like the latest one was Magnolia, Straight Story, Blair Witch Project, all kinds of stuff like that.
All right. Genre agnostic, I see. I'll have to check them out. Aaron, thanks a bunch for helping out on the show and getting the interview up and running. I couldn't be there. I had some prior obligations, but I'm super stoked about talking about the movie tonight and wish I could have been there. But yeah, folks, stick around after our rating to get an amazing interview with the lead of the film and Carly and Aaron. All right, so jumping right into it, tonight's drink is called the Undercover Kick, and the drink reflects the raw, edgy atmosphere of the film, and it mirrors the dual identities at the core of the story, which is a pretty important kind of aspect. And the ingredients for this drink is 2 ounces of gin, which should make Carly happy as usual, which represents the British setting. A half ounce of lime juice to add a sharp cutting edge. A half ounce of simple syrup. 1 teaspoon of green chartreuse, however you say that fucking word. To bring a kick. Symbolizing the sudden violence and intensity of the film, which it definitely has. 2 dashes of Tabasco sauce to mimic the fiery conflict and tension. Splash of soda water and ice, and a lime wheel for garnish. And it's pretty simple. It's like most drinks that we have on here. A chill glass. Place a highball glass in the freezer to chill. In a shaker filled with ice. Combine gin, lime juice, simple syrup, green chartreuse. Help me out here, Carly. Help me out here.
I have no idea. I'm just going to leave that out because I don't know what it is.
Chartreuse and Tabasco sauce. Shake till the ice sounds different, about 10-15 seconds to blend well and chill. Pour into the glass, fill it into your highball glass with fresh ice and strain the cocktail mixture into the glass. Top the cocktail with soda water with a refreshing lift. Add a lime wheel on the rim of the glass as garnish. I don't like gin, so it's definitely going to be a pretty kick. That Tabasco sauce, I think that was going to put me under.
Yeah.
I'm not big on fiery, hot stuff, but definitely sounds like this one is going to pair well with tonight's film. With that said, we're going to jump right into the trailer for the film tonight, and we hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll follow it up with some nonsense. There we go. Here's the trailer.
Shadwell Town fans call their ground the Kennel. Their nickname's the Dogs. We want you in there with them. Someone's organising this lot. We want the generals, not the foot soldiers.
When you're right there, in the thick of it.
See you used before, something? Yeah, the Rocks are local. Nick like duck.
And all you've got to rely on is your mates.
What do you look like?
Where'd you have a drink? So how you get in with her?
I hope it was worth it.
Boys and me, we're off the home and kick some bleeding heads in. You on for it?
There's just one thing you better remember.
Looking for decent brand.
That's me, Sarge.
That's who you are.
Got some good stuff from the surveillance camera at Wapping.
Who is it?
Oh, we don't know him. Thought you might be able to put a name to the face.
Who is that runt, John? No one I know.
Do you see Brandon? Any problems with your work?
Only those the old bill give us, sir.
I don't know what's happening to us. What's wrong with being happy?
Try looking at yourself in a mirror. You're a hooligan, John.
Really wanna be a bad boy. You overstepped the mark. Give me my marker. Let me know where I'll stop. Surely this is it? The edge, isn't it? Tell me when I've touched the bone. ID.
All right, that was the trailer for tonight's film, entitled ID. It's a 1995 film. It's a British-German film made by the BBC Films. I don't know if that's a studio or is it just BBC Films. I'm not really sure. About football hooligans, and football as in soccer, I believe. I don't think we ever see a team actually playing in the film, do we, Carly?
No, that was actually a really interesting point that Reece made. And I sat there like pondering for about 5 minutes thinking,
yeah,
you bloody damn it. Actually, now you think about it,
it was interesting.
Played with my mind for so long.
I didn't even catch it till like the latter third of the film. I was just like, I looked over Sean. I was like, we haven't seen anybody play an actual game. She's like, nope. I'm like, huh, interesting. Anyway, it's about football hooligans, which I guess is a big deal out there. Is that a big deal out there? I mean, occasionally out here, there'll be some noise, football game excitement, and people will come out and there'll be a fight or some weird shit. People jumping on cars and setting something on fire or whatever. It's really nonsense, but it seems like it's just a way of life out there. But anyway, the film is directed by Philip Davis, written by Vincent O'Connell, and starring Reece Dinsdale, Sean Pertwee, Warren Clarke.
Not getting involved.
Yeah, I love him though. He's a fantastic actor. I love this dude. Anyway, it is set in 1988 in London, area of Shadwell, England. You got to help me out with this because I'm not even from there, so I'm going to butcher everything about it. So you've got to chime in, and you got to chime in quick, or I'm going to keep rolling, and then I'm just going to butcher your entire, demographic of geographic. I mean, not demographic. Not making fun of anybody in particular.
I think it's really funny already. I did say in the interview, you're going to be so confused by 3 English people just talking.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that about the film too. So by now these sorts of stories, and even by the time of 1995, like a story like this where, well, actually, before we get into that, we need to do Carly's in a nutshell synopsis. I almost ruined everything again, as I usually do. I'm always just like steamrolling right over her synopsis.
I love the fact that you can't speak today.
I can't. It's, folks, it's really late for me and it's really early for her because we have this wonderful time zone issue. But hey, we wouldn't have it any other way. It's fun. And good night. Click. No. All right, Carly, let's do your synopsis.
Okay.
And now it's time for Carly's super famous in a nutshell synopsis.
One of the most shocking identity crises committed to camera.
Yeah. It is kind of like it's a downhill. The last 15 minutes of the movie is like a downhill, craziness. In the very last scene, it like reminded me of like American History X, which it really, the movie doesn't per se, other than like the real sort of gritty feel of it. But when we get to that very end, it was just like, Jesus Christ, it's such a weird, dark ending. But before we ruin the ending for everybody, I forgot how dark
it was. To be fair, I forgot how dark it was. I completely There's a scene where he's sat watching TV, but it's just a radio on top of the TV, and I'm assuming it's cocaine, and he's just like tipping cocaine on his cornflakes, just munching away, just completely in a different zone. I was like, I don't even remember that. That is so like, what a scene, what a shot.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Like, I mean, at that point, he's lost everything, and he's in a fucking downward spiral. But I mean, we've seen other films like this before. None come to mind, per se, but like where it's that story of the undercover cop that gets in too deep and sort of like has that Stockholm kind of syndrome sort of scenario. But I think where the film like really did its job well was, I think Reese's character, Reece Dinsdale, the lead character, is such a young, clean cut, go getter type guy at the very beginning of this film that like when it starts to progressively fall into that sort of Stockholm sort of like thing, it really, he does such a great job with the transition and even how they, he grows his hair out and like all that sort of like, movie stuff that they do with like the way that they dress and the way that they talk and the way they act and all that stuff. But he really embodied it so well. And it was it's such a complicated navigation from where he starts to his descent that you don't even really know it's happening until you see something like him dumping drugs on his cornflakes, right? It's like he does such a great job, or like the beach scene where, him and his, I guess, wife have that issue. He does such a fantastic job just sort of like playing that transition that they really picked, I think, like the perfect person to do this.
It's really interesting because to begin with, you just think, oh, he's just being a bit of a lad's lad. He's taking all the sort of like the male bonding aspects, the fun, the laugh at the weekend, and he's just loosening up a little bit. You don't realise how far it's gone, like you say, until you see certain scenes, particularly how he's reacting with his wife, usually, from how he was.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It was, and I remember once I watched that beach scene, and it's like, you kind of know it's coming at that point, like the way he's looking, the way she's talking, like that kind of stuff. You kind of know it's happening right then and there. But in between the beginning and that point, you don't notice it really happening per se. Like he's still up to that point. He's still like pretty straight-laced cop, even though they do their thing and, they're mixing and mingling pretty well. But yeah, it was just, I thought it was a brilliant job. I'm not sure. I didn't have the time to look at his acting career up to that point, but what an amazing job he did, and I love Sean Pertwee Jesus Christ. Pertwee.
Don't say surname. That's for the best.
Yeah.
Just say Sean.
I love Sean. Sean's great. He's great and everything. I think he's fun. I didn't know he was in this movie, so it was great to see him pop up and play such a bad guy.
It's a really good cast, actually. If you have a look, like Philip Glenister is incredible. I think everybody just mixes really, really well. Like Claire Skinner, the wife, she's fantastic. She's done some brilliant stuff, and I think it's a really good snapshot of sort of like really good UK actors that have gone on to do excellent work, just meshing really well.
I'm kind of at a loss at that, because we don't get a lot of that over here unless we, seek it out. Like we have, you know what I mean? We don't get a lot of UK films over here or anything like that. It's sort of kind of changing a little bit. We get more TV than anything. So a lot of these actors, unless they've somehow broken out into like the American like market, like Sean, did for a time. It's not saying that that's good or bad or whatever as far as the career goes, but I have no idea. But like we don't get a chance to experience a lot of those actors, which are fantastic. Like almost everything that I've seen that's come out of the UK, like has just fantastic acting. Like they seem to focus so much more on the acting than like the pouring huge amounts of money into the actual, projects, which I think is great. And this film is like no different than that. Like, you know, even like we were talking about not seeing the soccer teams, how much money could they have saved on that, you know? And it didn't even feel like you were missing anything. I did love that line though at the very end where he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, something along the lines of, you know, he alludes to like he is working, he's undercover kind of thing or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God, this dude's nuts.
What I think is really clever as well is that you learn pretty much everything you need about that character in the opening interview. You know, the opening interview that goes over the credits.
Yeah.
You learn like his sense of humor, like his cheeky personality, how sharp he is, how sort of like by the book he is. It reminded me of, you're probably not going to get this. I don't think you watch Only Fools and Horses, do you?
No, but if you like reference Red Dwarf or something, I'd probably get it.
No. No.
I don't know what Only Fools and Horses are. That sounds like a Hallmark movie here.
There's a character called Slater in Only Fools and Horses, and when he's doing his opening sort of interview with whoever he's caught, just reminds me of Slater in Only Fools and Horses, and I just don't know why. I can't think of for the life of me why, but I love so much that that's him. It just in that scene because you get such a mix.
I refuse to believe that there's another character in the film universe named Slater other than Slater from Saved by the Bell. So I don't believe you. Just saying.
Well, there is.
Mario Lopez, your legacy is over with.
We had it first. I'm calling it. Only Fools and Horses.
I'm surprised you even know what Saved by the Bell is.
Yeah, it used to be on Channel 4 in between stuff when my dad was trying to make me eat food that I didn't like.
Wow, you guys had it out there. That's crazy. Wow. Nuts.
Oh, yeah, we get lumbered with all your rubbish and you don't get any of our decent stuff.
I know. Isn't that ridiculous? It's crazy. No, I had to start seeking out. A friend of mine, I didn't even know there was British entertainment.
We're all just sitting in our houses just doing nothing.
Yeah, I didn't discover it till like I was 23, 24 or something like that. Maybe 21, 22. I can't remember. A friend of mine started showing me like stuff. And that's how I discovered, you know, stuff that you hate, like Red Dwarf, but I love. And yeah, that's when I was first introduced to like British television, which I thought was great, you know. But I don't know why we don't really get that out here. Like we need, they could incorporate. It's, you know what it is? It's like this film. It's so fucking difficult to understand what the hell you guys are saying.
Why?
I don't know why. I don't know why. It's like every other letter from a word is dropped. And you just got to kind of figure it out. But for me anyways, like, and I mean, I get it. England came first. I'm sure our English version isn't correct, but it's so I was watching ID and I'm just like, I would turn the fucking volume all the way up because I couldn't understand what the fuck was being said. And I'm like, okay, I need subtitles. and then I'm struggling with all the like isms. Like, I don't know, like what the hell that once I figure out what the words are, I don't know what the hell it means.
I bet you were getting really confused with like, so like the character Gumbo, I bet you're thinking, it's a gumbo. No, that's
well, so like, yeah. So like here gumbo is like it's like a stew where you just kind of, it's, you know, you throw everything in it kind of thing. I mean, there's certainly like actual gumbo recipes, but in general, people just kind of call it a gumbo when you just throw everything in it. And I just kind of figured maybe he was just a petri dish for drugs just because of the way he was. Maybe, you know, they called him that because he just took every drug on earth or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea what gumbo means for you guys.
It's just a character.
Just a character. It means absolutely nothing. His name could have been Bob. Oh, wait, there was already a Bob. Let's call him Gumbo.
Like a lot of the culture in Britain is that people have a lot of nicknames. Like my husband, when have I ever called him by his first name? I never would. If people ask me, how's your husband? And they use his first name, I'm like, who the hell are you on about?
That's funny.
It's just a thing. Like, another thing about this film that I love so much as well, and doing the podcast interview with Aaron was so funny because he used to come in the pub that we had. That's how I originally met him years ago. Okay. And it just brought back flashbacks of the football on a Saturday at the pub.
Nice.
Honestly, and all the nicknames that all the regulars had, and it was just, if you heard them shouting it out, you would just be lost. But they just took me straight back into that atmosphere of what, even just as a pub and having it sort of like pass through or pass by, of just, it's like an energy. It's like there's something in the air. It's weird.
I mean, I get it because I watched, what's that new show? The soccer show on Apple TV. I can't think of the name right now. Ted Lasso. Yeah. So they have all the pub scenes there. Kind of like I can really get a good vibe between like watching movies like this and Ted Lasso and like, Shaun of the Dead or whatever. It's like I totally get like the vibe of like pubs in the UK, and they're not the same as out here. It's very different, but I love it. I think it's really cool, and I'm excited to get over there and have a drink with you in a pub to kind of see it for real. But yeah, I think I would be lost because like it would just sound like you guys are just saying words, not really saying things. So, and it would just be nonsense to me, but I would pick it up. I would eventually pick it because I would have you by my side doing sort of like, ESL for me, but like, British to English, interpretation kind of thing. And it would all be good. It would work out.
Navigate it. But no, Jason, we need to leave. You totally said the wrong thing. Now let's go.
Shit. That would happen too. No doubt.
I'll tell you what, though, with this film, I'm really impressed that the characters were able to stay undercover whilst consuming that much alcohol. Because
for sure,
honestly,
right?
the slightest thing, and I'd be telling everybody, I'd be showing them a police badge off me not because I've had too many shandies. Honestly, how they could do that and keep the reds even drunk is beyond me.
And what's a shandy?
Oh, it's like half lager and half lemonade.
Ew, half beer and half lemonade. Oh, and you're like, yeah, of course. What's wrong with you?
You either have it the next day, if you need hair of the dog, if you've had a really bad day, like bad day on the beer before, and you need a hair of the dog, but you can't have too much that's going to make you sick, you have a shandy. Or if you're driving, you think, I'll have a shandy.
If you turn into a werewolf, what's hair of the dog?
So like a top-up. So you made yourself that sick off beer the day before that you think the only thing that's going to sort me out is another pint.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, like an X-stage chaser. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your body's kind of craving it, but you're sort of like, yeah, I get it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. All right. That was a lot of words there I didn't understand. It's all right. It's all good. So, all right. So we're running out of time here. Did you guys touch on at all about this being a sort of based on a true story?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did a little bit of reading, and apparently the what is his name? James Bannon, I think.
I'm not getting into UK pronunciation with you.
And I'm pretty certain that's how you pronounce his name, but I was trying to find my notes here just to make sure I got the name right. I'm pretty sure it's James Bannon. I think he was a producer, but also I think it's based on his story.
Wow.
I believe it's loosely based on it was called Operation Full Time, Scotland Yard undercover operation that attempted to identify the leaders of a West Ham United's firm, the Intercity firm, ICF or something. I guess that's what the gang name was called.
Ah.
But apparently, like John, the character of John, like didn't like that's sort of like made up, or at least his descent into Crazy Town was made up. That didn't happen to any of the officers, but yeah, it was based on a true story, or at least loosely based on a true story, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I suppose it happens quite a lot, especially when
so.
You can very much imagine. I think what an absolute arsehole's trick that from the police inspector or whoever as well to just go, right, you're done now. We're sending you back on the beat where you're going, exactly where you've been undercover. Like, I can completely see the Met Police doing that and just thinking, well, it's fine. Yeah, I bet that. I can't imagine what they would have gone through undercover and things like that.
Yeah, and then it was mad how they, after they pulled him out of undercover, and then we're like, hey, you're going to do some community service in the same area where you were undercover? Like, what? You're trying to get everybody killed? Like, that was crazy, But I found my notes. It is James Bannon, and he was a former undercover detective. And he eventually wrote a book in 2013, which chronicles the events that happen in the film. And the book is called Running with the Firm.
Well, I might have to get a copy of that, I think I'd find that quite interesting.
And it was very hard to find the movie just because it's called ID. It was really difficult to find. And then I was like, oh, put in the year. Oh, okay. Thank God I knew what year it came out, because then I was able to find it. So folks at home, if you go to look up this movie, you could probably use Reece Dinsdale as, and then ID, or you could probably just put an ID in 1995 because that's what worked for me. Carly didn't warn me.
I did not.
I watched like 3 other ID movies before I... I'm kidding. But all right, folks. It's a really... we're really running out of time here because we do want to get to the amazing interview that Reece was so gracious to spend some time with Carly and talk about his adventures. So we're going to jump into our rating of the film.
Well, I'm obviously going to give it 10 out of 10 because this is one of my favourite films. It's definitely in the top 5 of favourite films. Yeah, I've had it for years. I was lucky to find a DVD copy of it years ago, and I've nice. That's why the interview was just like on my bucket list. That was just amazing. That was incredible because it still has the same effect on me now as it did when I first watched it, and I'm still learning new things from it even now. Fair enough, with a little bit of help from Reece. But I feel like every time you watch it, you have a different take from it. So it's either a little bit less shocking or a little bit more shocking, or you notice more character things, or I've started to notice more of the side character performances and things like that. So like Trev, for example, I used to watch it and think, what a knobhead Trev is. He's going to get him shot. But then you start to see more things with Trev and you think, oh, she's so scared. Like, what would you do in that situation? And it's like the gift that keeps on giving. And I do think it's quite an underrated film. I think a lot of people do stay away from it either because they assume it's a football film or it's glorifying this or it's glorifying that. And I think it isn't doing those things. If you actually watch it for what it is, you'll see that it's not doing those things. So I do think more people should see it. And I think it, even though it was filmed, say, 1995, it still holds up today. It still reasonably holds up. It could be something that was on BBC tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Because because of the, the setting, set dressing, everything like that. I've seen stuff. I saw something with Tom Hardy in The Take, and ID had better, sort of more authentic 80s setting than that did. And you're talking a difference of 20 years. Yeah.
All right. So 10 out of 10. That's a pretty good spiel. It's hard to beat that.
10 gins for me.
All right. Well, so I really enjoyed the sort of gritty tone of the film. Like, it wasn't glossy. It jumped right into like real life sort of like characters, and it really felt like real life. And I think that was probably its main and strongest point of the entire movie. And if you recall a TV show that came out probably around the same time called The Wire. Mm-hmm. It was on HBO. It reminded me a lot of The Wire, and The Wire had a lot of the same sort of characteristics. that this film did. Like it felt very authentic and real. And it was also about a sort of like special task force and trying to infiltrate, like this drug kind of cartel thing. I think it was Atlanta, if I remember right. But, yeah, it felt very similar to that. So it gave me like, you know, vibes of The Wire, which I really liked a lot. And I think that coupled with the cast, I really think the cast is amazing in this movie. Like they did such a great job. And only knowing like two of the cast out of the entire film, like everybody's just really, really good at their jobs. Very believable and fit into this world like perfectly. And Reece in particular, I really respect what he did with the character and how you just don't even notice the downfall. You know, like there's certain things that come up that you expect to come up, you know, but you don't really get that sort of like it's not giving it away, like how deep he's going, you know? And I think he just did a brilliant job doing that because it's like every sort of like turn where it's just deeper and deeper. It's like, you know, it just kind of happens. You're just like, whoa, okay. And I think that the audience kind of gets that too, because the film itself has got high scores across the board everywhere. You know, like IMDb is like 7.3 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is 81%, which is like fantastic. You know, everywhere I look, it's like well-respected film. There's a few little things for me, like particularly like the ending that felt like shock value. So like the whole Nazi parade thing at the end, like I don't, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I completely understand why they did it. And it didn't make me like hate the scene or hate the movie or anything that because of it, but I almost felt like it wasn't needed. Like you could just cut that last scene and the film completely works as the way it is. And I just felt it was like it was almost too sensational for how down to earth and gritty the film was. That was really my only quip with the entire movie. And one thing I forgot to bring up earlier is like it's very subtle what you find out what happens. You know, when he gets in that last fight and there's blood on his shirt and, you know, then they allude to him not remembering what happened and them getting rid of the video and all that kind of stuff. And then you hear on the radio, it says something about, you know, somebody being murdered a week ago or something like that. And I'm pretty sure they're alluding to he killed somebody. And I thought that was pretty cool and subtle, you know, but also really dark, you know, that the rest of his cop buddies like covered it up and got rid of the tape and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that was pretty great the way that they laid that out and made it such a subtle aspect. But yeah, anyway, that one last scene is really the only thing that sort of like, I feel like you could just cut it before that and we're totally fine. You know, we don't need to see that. But yeah, so I give the film a 9 out of 10 because that one scene there, that's the only thing that I just felt like I really feel like, because a lot of times, like even when we're watching a lot of noir films, sometimes like the ratings boards or whatever, like they're not allowed to do stuff where they have to do this thing at the end or change the original ending. And I really felt like the end of this movie was just a little bit too much shock value, you know. But other than that, I thought the movie itself was fantastic. I would definitely watch it again, if not just to try to figure out more of what people are saying.
One day Jason will understand.
Right. All right, guys. Well, stick around. This isn't the end, because now you're going to be in for an amazing treat that's not just us talking about nonsense. You get to hear from the gentleman that starred in the film as John, and his name is Reece Dinsdale, and he's going to be talking with Carly and Aaron. So stick around, and we hope you enjoy the interview.
Obviously, it's been a long time since the film. What are your kind of thoughts on its longevity and it's the reaction to it more than anything, even all these years later, because I guess on Twitter you've probably got a whole new range of people that are seeing it for the first time.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? Because I was just walking about this morning thinking, it's 30 years this month we were shooting it, exactly 30 years. It's an awfully long time ago. But yes, we were, I think we started filming in April in 94. And still we're talking about it in 2024. And I still get people shouting lines at me here, there and there, usually at football, when I'm watching my team. But even walking down the street, sometimes I'll get, I fucking love you, Gumbo, or something thrown at me, or Chadwell Army or whatever. I don't know what that's down to, really. There are generations of kids who weren't born when it was made, and they still enjoy it for some reason. I don't know what to say about that. It's remembered by some people for the wrong reasons. Getting a bit heavy. First question here.
I know, yeah.
Well, maybe I'll hold back on that one. But it's you could say on the surface it's a film about football hooligans, but it's not really. It could have been, that was a hook to hang it on. Really, it could have been set in many an arena, and it just happened to be that one. But it's really delving into someone's psyche, isn't it? Really. But I'm thrilled that it's lasted this long. I hadn't seen it until about 6 years ago. I hadn't seen it for all that length of time, and I'm a patron at the Square Chapel Arts Centre in Halifax, and they wanted to do show some of my work, and they asked if they could show, first of all, ID. So I said, fine, why not? That's what I'm here for, to help you along and to participate in such things. And we had an evening, it was sold out, and it was such an extraordinary audience. There was a group of, let's say, middle-class arty-farty types who go to such places and enjoy what they see and find new films and new experiences. And then there was a group of, 10, 20 people, maybe lads in their 40s or something like that, who'd seen it and who were maybe a little inebriated, shall we say. And they watched it for different reasons, but were, at the end of the day, we did a questions and answer on it, and they were slightly raucous, but they meant well. And in the end, everybody got on well, the kind of mixture of people. But it was extraordinary that we were all still there. People who had not seen it, people who had seen it, people who loved it. The evening went extremely well. But the funny thing was, it shocked me more than anybody in the room. Really. So maybe I'm going on again to something else, but it is extraordinary how it has lasted.
Actually, though, why did it shock you? That's quite interesting. Because is it because it's been a long time since you've been involved in it and you've done so much of the stuff that you were going back to it, or is it more sort of like the content? Maybe you thought, maybe I didn't.
It's the content. I didn't recognise myself, and I didn't like. Well, hey, I'm an actor. I understand what it is, but I couldn't. I'd forgotten where we went with the character and what we did, and it was disturbing in so many ways, and because I'd not remembered it to that degree. The level of especially that when he the kind of sexual violence there is in it. It was very disturbing, I felt. And it totally shook me. So it took me a while to get on stage after the thing, because I was in the dressing room just a little bit shaky, going, I really didn't remember it was like that. And did I go there? Did I really go there?
Yeah.
And I shared that with the audience, actually, which was very good because it opened up the conversation in a kind of more interesting fashion than just like, how do you learn your lines? And what was it like kissing that girl, or whatever, it's just ridiculous things you probably get. So I shocked me, but it still held its power, I think. Although that's not for me to say, really, but it certainly did because the audience told me so. So yeah,
I think it's definitely. I think it's definitely helps that a lot of the themes that it kind of deals with, although it's very sort of its time in a way, the sort of it's of that sort of early 90s kind of thing. But a lot of the themes, I think, are sort of as prevalent now, at least, as they kind of were back then in particular.
Yeah, I mean, it's the human condition, isn't it? And it's always with us, and we're always examining it. And as I said, as I hinted, when I read it, I was blown away. Not because, it was manna from heaven for me. I watched football all my life, and I'm old enough to have seen all the brutality of the 70s even, and the 80s. With football, I saw it in front of my eyes. I was never part of it, but you couldn't go to a football match then. So I didn't need to do much work in that respect. I understood football. I knew the culture. I knew not why it happened, but where it all came from. It was when reading the script, it was the character, the psychological aspects of it, the breakdown, the descent into hell that happens for him, and that'll always be with us. People's journey. As I said, it's not necessarily football. So yes, there are still things with football, probably not as much as they used to be. Now it's cleaned up his act to a certain degree, but we'll always have things that are with us in life, whether it be drugs or alcohol or just anger or what have you. But violence is around us always, and that's what this film was all about, really. And unfortunately, some people just thought it was a glorification of football hooliganism, but it wasn't.
It's funny you kind of mentioned that. Sorry, Carly.
No, it's fine. You carry on. I was just I lost my train of thought for a second, so.
That's usually my job. And it'll happen, don't you worry.
I was just going to say that it's funny you kind of mentioned that some people took it as a glorification, because I think there have been, particularly sort of going back probably 10 or 15 years, it felt like there was a spate of films that did seem to sort of glorify it a little bit. But for me in particular, this, and I guess to a degree now, I wonder if you'd kind of seen it coming into it, is the Alan Clarke film, The Firm.
I did see it. It was made before it was made for television, and it was, I thought it was terrific. Gary Oldman is a fantastic actor, and I knew most of the actors in it, and Alan Clarke's such a wonderful director. So yes, of course I saw that. In fact, Phil Davis, who directed ID, was Yeti in that film. So Phil wasn't coming at it either from a place of let's glorify this, we love it, let's have a good rumble and make a film about it. That was the last thing. He is a very intelligent film an actor, and I think he's kind of given up with the directing now, but a very intelligent film person wouldn't dream of wanting to make something about something that was glorifying the issue. I think, although I've not seen them, so this is just on hearsay, because I didn't particularly involve myself with the genre that came after. That was, I think, it's very difficult if I'm here to say, they glorified it. I haven't seen them, so it's very hard. But I'm told that they're a very different kettle of fish. Those type of films that followed on. Let's not name them, really. I won't name them. don't want to rubbish anybody in my profession. But I just wasn't interested. It just told me everything. I did this film, and then I didn't want to know about the other films, because when I sensed that people were getting off a little bit on it being about football and hooligans and, oh, it's great, and you see when he did that thing, and I thought, oh my God, that's not the film. That's not what I was involved with. Fair play to them. They make their films and it makes money for them. That's great. I'm not judging that, but I'm just not interested in that kind of film. Unless it's got something about it that is saying something, I don't really see the point.
Yeah. See, that's quite interesting, because I was going to ask you, so when I, creatively, my process, which is a bit backwards, is I kind of I find a character or a moment, and then once that's out, that's where everything else gets shaped around. So I wondered whether when you read, so I wondered when you read ID, did you have a moment where you thought, I have to do that scene, or it's this moment that makes everything else make sense? Did you have anything like that, or was it kind of just the character's journey as a whole? Because like you say, you almost transition from A to Z. The difference is just incredible, physically and everything.
I just got the film as I read it straight away. It was the arc, really, of the journey, rather than it being one thing. I thought it was full of awesome stuff throughout in its piece of writing, and so that was wonderful. As each page was turned, it was like, wow, oh, we're gonna go here then, are we? Oh, and we're gonna go here. So it kept unraveling and revealing itself to me. But it was very much the journey that was fascinating. I mean, there's an even more fascinating story about how I got it. I was not being seen for it. They didn't want to see me at all for the role. Basically, before that time, I'd played a succession of perhaps nice chaps and good lads and all the rest. I was going to say, is it kind of a bit of a typecasting where they go, oh no, he's Matthew at home to roost. He's never going to be able to do this. Exactly, and they unfairly don't even let you. Yeah. That's exactly what they did. I had a really high-powered agent, and she kept knocking on the door of the producer and indeed Phil, the director. And whilst they were very complimentary about the work I've been doing, they said he's not remotely. Reece just doesn't say to us he can go there, and they looked at all the usual suspects, and whoever you want to think of in my age range, and there's quite a lot of them who are extremely talented in this sphere, they looked at them. And what they couldn't get was anyone who could straddle the journey from A to Z, as you said. They could get somebody who could be at Z. They could get somebody who could be at A. They could get somebody who might even reach T. But they couldn't do it. And they couldn't find anybody who was not going to give the game away by casting them. So you cast a certain person and you go, we know where this is going because he plays nutters, but they still didn't think I'd got it in the tank. So they didn't want to see me. And because they were running aground trying to find this person, this great agent just finally went, all right, you're all fools, you're all mad, just see him and throw him out and you can say we were right. So I thought, well, I've nothing to lose here. So I remember going in and them asking me to do a couple of scenes. Well, it was long before you had to. Nowadays, it's a very different world, and you do in front of the camera, you're doing a screen test, and you've got to be off book, and it's got to be perfect, and you've had the script for ages, and blah blah blah, and they're wanting a performance there, but then it wasn't like that. You usually go in and read, and you take it from there. Well, I was ahead of the game in some ways. I just thought, right, this is a one-shot deal. My agents back me. Let's go and show them what I've got. So I went in the room knowing the stuff, and I knew I had it in the tank because you know your own skills, you know your own talent, you know where you can go. It's just somebody else's fault that you haven't been given the parts yet. So I was ready for it, and I kind of went mad. And in the first early scenes we read was the early stuff, and that was nice. That was like falling off a log stuff. But when he goes crazy. I can't quite remember which scene I did now, but there were plenty of them to let rip. And I did, and I just went absolutely full blast for it. I could see them kind of, pinned against the back wall, the producer and director. And it was literally a day or 2 days, and I'd got the gig. It was from being the total rank outsider, not even in the frame really, there it was. Thereby hangs the tale.
Oh, that's awesome. I've just got visions of you just leaving an audition room, and there's just tables in pieces and just people going.
I think there was a chair or two that did get moved around the place. But anyway, yeah. Sometimes you have to have a gamble on things, and I took the right gamble that time. But yeah, they weren't going to give me it, but thank goodness they did. I can't remember your question now, Carly. I hope I answered it in some way. I don't know. Oh, well, so yes, I mean, the journey to the character was then extraordinary because being a northern lad, and I've always, luckily, catching up with me now, but I played much younger than my years. I've been fortunate to look a few years younger than I am. And the character was meant to be, I don't know, mid-20s or something, and I was 34. In fact, I remember when I did Home to Roost with John Ford, I was, they couldn't find a 17-year-old who'd got enough experience to go toe-to-toe with John Ford. And so they took me because I looked 17, but I was 25 on the first day of rehearsals. And on the last day of rehearsals, I was 29 playing 18. So I've always been a bit fortunate like that. But I got this role, but it was all against type in a way, even in the accents. He's supposed to be a South Londoner. It's no secret, I guess, now that it was based on a true story, based around Millwall Football Club. So, you had to sound like the real McCoy. So what happened with the director when I got the job was he said, right, we're going to do some work. So I was the only actor to do any work with him. And we did sessions over a 3-week period, 1-to-1 in a basement room in Soho, working on the character, because Phil had come very much from the Mike Leigh school of filming. He'd appeared for Mike Leigh in many a film where you delved into the character and you tried to find out his history and his past, and so that you kind of were that character. You could inhabit him anyway. So I spent all this time in a room with Phil doing little kind of exercises and talking about his life. And in fact, I wrote an 80-page A4 pad of his life without taking it necessarily from the script. It was just my and Phil's imagination. I went all over South London finding the house that he lived in, and I found the school that he went to, and I found the police station that I felt his dad had been a police officer. This is not in the film. I just filled my head with a story about this guy so that when I got on set, I had everything there at my fingertips. It was everything I said had a background to it, had some depth to it. So it was an extraordinary process of working. You might say, that it was a kind of an attempt at method acting, although I take my work very, very seriously, and I've always delved into characters and I've always read around them, and I always enjoy that part of it. But I guess I'd never had to go this far. I'm not sure it's necessary for everything either. But I did enjoy the process. I was even made to speak in a London accent from the moment the driver would pick you up at home in the morning, take you to the makeup wagon, 10 miles across London, speak to him, speak to the makeup girls, talk to all the cast, talk to the people who made your breakfast and did your lunch and the catering in a complete London accent. He wouldn't let me slip out of it. So it was one of those, but it worked. It seemed to work for this job. And then I was at any moment when he pressed go, when he said action, I was there with it. I wasn't struggling for it or anything. It was probably why he's been a northern lad who wasn't exactly, the best fighter in his year at school. Yeah. But a fascinating thing to have to do.
Yeah, that really is. I think it shows, though, doesn't it, in the performance all these years later, all those little bits, because the thing that I love so much about the characters is when he comes up with these little, basically to cover himself. So anytime he's going to get caught or Trev does something that he's, oh God, he just comes up with something. And I think why is he telling them, why is he having a go at a machine? I don't understand this. And then all of a sudden you go, that's genius.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's in the writing, but it wasn't it wasn't different. None of it was difficult for me to find. Even the violence, it just, I just submerged myself in it. But, I don't want to sound as if I think I'm some fantastic actor or anything, but great acting is a marriage of all that, but it's also a marriage of that with technique. And I got it in spades by that time. I'd done so much television, so much drama, so many single dramas or series, so much theatre that, without that as well, you're just hoping that this person you've found who's a bit raw and a bit mad can do all the things that you are required to do and pull it off. It happens sometimes. I remember watching Tim Roth in Made in Britain and thinking I've never seen anybody so raw, so powerful, so scary in front of a camera. He took on the camera and it was like, wow. But, he would be the first person to say it was him and doing his thing at that time. He wasn't steeped in theatre or in film or in television. He was just plucked to do this mad role and it suited him. But there aren't many it doesn't always happen. There are many failures there without something. So I've always been proud of my ability to learn and take on technical things, and I find it fascinating, and still do. And I suppose that's probably why I direct as well, because I just love all that side of it. But yeah, it's not just somebody turns up and they go mad and that's a film.
Yeah, well, yeah, no. It might be one of our films, but it's not that film.
No, sure not.
Do you think then that because you did immerse yourself so deeply in not just the character, but the history, everything like that, do you wonder if you picked up inadvertently some kind of character traits that you've either realised, recognised, or is it something you can just close the booklet, put it away and done?
Yeah, I'm very good at letting it all go. I don't think I did any of that. If I did, my now wife, then girlfriend, has never said so. I hope not anyway. I'm quite good at separating that. I mean, a lot of actors, I think, God love them, that they kind of take great pride in saying, yeah, I did this method job. Yeah, I couldn't get out of character. And it's like, well, really? Okay. I know what's real and I know what's not. and I've always been quite good at that. So thank God. That's why all those years later at Square Chapel, watching it again, I went, oh my God. I think because I didn't recognize him because I threw him away and it was all gone. And it was 30 years. Well, it was then when I saw about 24, 25 years after I made it. When I was watching it again, I'm thinking, what the hell is that? Who is he? But because I was just very, very good at letting it all go. Still am. Yeah. I don't try and, push that on anybody in my own private life. That would be horrific, wouldn't it?
Oh gosh, yeah, I couldn't live with somebody that was just being a character for 4 months at a time.
What a nonsense! You just think, what an arse, really. It's like, pull yourself together. Anyway.
Well, they'd just be using it as an excuse. If it was my husband, he'd be like, I'm method acting, I need another bottle of whiskey. Oh, right, okay. Oh, you don't tidy up either, do you, method acting? No.
There you go, exactly.
It's quite an interesting. It's quite an interesting point, really. With, like you say, about like going into this character, obviously rather unsavory character in particular, but then like your ability to let go of that is then kind of in sharp contrast to the character's arc as such as well, is that he obviously then is performing this role and then loses himself completely in it.
Yes, he does. I mean, he does the opposite of what I'm capable of doing. He doesn't know when to say no, does he? He just he can't get up one. I mean, that is the whole thing about addiction. Once you're on the treadmill, and when it gets you, there is no stopping. There is no bottom. You just keep free falling, don't you? And it's just one thing fed into another until he ends up, well, I won't ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but maybe there aren't too many people now who are going to watch it if they haven't. But it's just, he just can't get off it. It's just one man's journey into hell, really, isn't it? The whole thing. And that's what keeps us sane, our ability to not keep going. We don't always achieve it, but most people just kind of go, no, I've had enough there. Enough's enough. I've gone too far now. Yeah. I actually, the builders outside, the guys who were doing putting something up in the garden, they were talking about it because they didn't know I was an actor. They're very, very young, and I said, yeah, I've done a bit. They said, like, what? And I told them about this, that, and the other, and I ended up talking about ID. And I said, they said, we're going to watch that. I said, oh, well, just make sure that I'm not like that. I will talk to you in the morning. I won't be coming at you, beating you up with a spade or something. So, yeah, it's very funny. But I do know, who's Reece and who's John.
That's good. I bet the builders are outside listening in like,
they might well be.
Again.
Again, the nutter. Yeah.
Did it affect your passion for football in any way? Because obviously you were involved you loved football before, obviously you still love football. Did it, I guess it is probably because you can sort of box off who you are and what you're doing. Maybe it didn't affect you in any way. But did it maybe highlight a little bit more for the good or the bad? Because obviously pre sort of this film, football violence was maybe a bit more prominent, or I don't know, maybe people just became more aware of it so that it stopped, well, didn't stop, but sort of slowed down or wasn't as obvious. It was more sort of street side, not in your face.
I think I was okay with things. I mean, the film was made in 94 but it was actually set in 88. So it was looking back at a period that even then when we made it, that had kind of moved on somewhat. As I said to you, I've seen the worst side of football when I was a kid. I mean, I've seen fights right in front of me. I've seen, hot coffee thrown over my dad and things like that. I've just seen people being so aggressive and ugly. The wonderful thing about football and football fans is also that it is wonderful and it's great theatre, and there's nothing like it, especially for big stupid men who can't show their emotions, who can all hug each other on a Saturday afternoon when a goal goes in. I mean, it's just, when you look around, it's extraordinary, these kind of, I'm a bloke, I don't do that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden they're all, hugging the nearest human being with abandon. Football has changed, has to a degree got its house in order, but it's still there. It's still a lot of tribal rivalry and all the rest of it, which I find a nonsense. I find a complete nonsense. And actually, I put my head above the parapet this week on Twitter. I don't do rival tweeting football crap, but some of the Nottingham Forest fans did my head in by complaining about bad against them. Little did they mention the 2 penalty decisions that went against Huddersfield Town against them in the playoff final for the Premier League 2 years ago. So I still, I can get involved, get passionate about it, but I do find it a nonsense, how we can all want to, wring each other's necks over something. Yes, it's wonderful. Yes, it's passionate. But, like my dad always used to say about Huddersfield Town, win, lose or draw, I always enjoy me tea afterwards. It was like, it's not that important, is it? I don't know. Football will always be part of my life. I do love it. We've got a massive game tomorrow that is do or die. We either go down into the first division or we remain in the championship. I'll be there. I'll be screaming and shouting and doing my thing. But you've got to know you've got to know your place and what it really means, you know. But as I say about the film, it was a hook to hang it on. So it's not necessarily about football, you know. I was just one aspect of it, really. In fact, you know, in the film, you never see a second of football except for one frame where the referee blows a whistle. You never see football. You never see a footballer. You never see a pitch. It's just everything that happens around it. It's actually quite interesting as well that you don't see that much violence as much as you think you see. Even the stabbing at what they call time burn, which was supposed to be some kind of northeast football club that we were rivals with, and we got up there, and there's something about him maybe having either injured or killed somebody in a knife fight. You don't see it; it's reported, so it's not that graphic. The film. Really, the graphic thing that really shocked me was the sexual violence when he, well, that's not too fine a point. He rapes his wife, and it's horrific. That's what threw me. That's what threw me that night more than anything. That was the thing. Just not pleasant to see, but that was the film.
Ah. Joe, that's really interesting. Now that you've mentioned that point about never actually seeing a pitch or football or... my mind, you can probably see my eyes going like that. I'm going back thinking...
I did a little bit, yes.
You don't.
You only see... It's quite funny what he does. You only see the coppers playing an indoor game of football. You don't see football. You see them in an office. They get a new office, and then they start kicking a ball about and having fun with it. That's the only time you see football... but not about professional football.
Yeah, there's that, and then, like I say, the closest bit you get to it is the bit where your character's kind of he's being dragged away by the policeman. He's got the cut on his cheek and everything.
That's down the top. In fact, we did that at a real football match. That was the first shot I ever did. We shot that before we did principal photography. They scheduled the film to be shot just as the season ends. So we needed to get me in a real crowd, and that could only be done when the season was still on. So we had to bring a day of filming forward. And I remember what we did. We went to Bradford City, and they were playing Hull City in a league match. And so that's why Shadwell are in black and amber, which is Hull City's colours, because on the day it was whatever they would call their colours, kind of black and gold, whatever. But that's why it's Shadwell's colours, because we had to put me in the middle of their supporters, and to use the shot. Therefore, that set the kind of design for the rest of the piece for Shadwell. But I was doing things incognito, so we had a camera down one end of the stand, looking along the side of the pitch. You didn't see the pitch. And on action, I was given a little earpiece, and on action, I was all behind the goal in the Bradford City end, and we got two SAs, or extras as they were known then, supporting artists, as coppers. And on action, they turned round and grabbed me, pulled me out, and walked me down the length of the stand. And people were going, what the hell is going on here? And I'm giving it all the big I am, and giving them the, come on, let's have you, and all this. And then I run away from the coppers at the end, and they're all like cheering and thinking he's got away, this lunatic's got away, and he's got into the Hull City end. And so that was great. And I thought, what's going on? Then the director said, we'll do it again at half time. So this was just before the game. And then, so I waited to do it again. So when at half time, they saw it happen again, they thought, hang about, this guy's been caught again in the other end. He's been dragged down the side and he escapes again. What the hell? So they sussed it, and Phil, the director, then had a big megaphone and said, listen, yes, we're making a film. It's Reece Dinsdale. unfortunately, they all knew I was a Huddersfield Town fan 10 miles down the road. So they were giving me hell. So he said, throw anything at him, do what you want. So the take they used was the third one. And there's all sorts of sweets raining down on me and cups and bottles and all sorts of things. But yeah, that was the very first scene that we did. But that's, I don't know. I don't know. I've told you that tale, but there you go. That's the very first shot.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if that happened now? You'd be like on Twitter. People would just be having little videos of you going, "He's gone mad. He's finally gone mad."
It'd be all over before you even shot the second take, wouldn't it? It'd be all over the place. Yeah. But no, it's fascinating, and also just little stories. Of course, we shot it all out of sequence. Nothing shot in sequence. So, of course, his hair grows from tidy to really long and to a fascist skinhead at the end. Because it then became the whole shoot was a series of wigs. So it's like, people go, you cut your... Well, actually, the bald thing at the end, I'm giving it all away, the skinhead was actually a bald cap on top of my own hair and just made to look really realistic and fantastic. The long wig when he becomes, off his tree, that's the long hair is not mine. The actual guy you see in the first, 20 minutes of the piece was my hair. It's just fascinating what the things you have to do. And then you have to let a makeup artist, put a tattoo on your bum and things like that. It's very strange. Weird business. No job for an adult, is it?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. You talked about the cast previously. It's such an incredible cast, and it's such a dark story. All the stories that you relay are such fun, and it just sounds like there's so much joy. What have you got a particular moment, other than being pelted on the pitch nearly, that you think back and think that's one of the best moments for something so dark? Sometimes the funniest sort of joy comes out of it because you're doing, you need that levity. Did you have anything like that on the set?
I think that one I just explained, the very first one, was because it got so deep and dark and I stayed within it. There wasn't much room for me to come outside of it and enjoy it as Reece, which is a pity in many ways, except for maybe, and this was exhilarating rather than funny, but there's a scene where the away supporters are passing the rock and they're outside and they go along in their coach, their away fans' coach, and I start running after them on my own. And then all of a sudden I look behind and there's 100 Shadwell Army boys running after us to support me. And we ran up to the back end of the bus, and all we were meant to do is jump up to the back window and start hammering on it. The first 10 who got there, just start hammering. As we did that, the whole of the window smashes, the back end of the bus comes out, nobody stops and goes, "Oh, no, stop, there's glass all over." We all went, "Sod it, carry on, it looks fab." So we were, in our heads, we were all going, they're not shouting cut yet, let's just keep going. And it looked amazing if you see the film, and that wasn't meant to happen. The whole, but the exhilaration, the kind of adrenaline rush of that, I remember very well. And the whole of that was the whole of the talk was like, oh, it was fantastic. Then everybody starts rocking the bus, it's falling over. So some good things did happen. It's funny that you should say that. I made a film, probably far more well known than ID, called Threads. I made that 10 years previous to Threads, which is about nuclear holocaust, the end of the world, really, in Sheffield, and written by Barry Hines, who wrote Cares and things like that. But that was about such a bigger subject matter, and was horrific. And if you haven't seen it, I do recommend it. And when people say that must have been horrific to make, and all I ever say is, do you know what? We had such a laugh. It was brilliant fun. And I think we we all just thought, you you can't make a film about the end of the world and people, just being vaporized or burnt to smithereens or whatever it was, radiation sickness. You can't walk around going, it's the end of the world. We've got to make this film. Oh God, all day. You just can't do it. And it was ironically one of the best and funniest films I've ever made. And it is nothing like it in reality.
It's funny you mentioned that.
You say that. I've been on a film set where somebody has walked around going, we have to make this. Oh my God. Oh, it's not fun.
Did it help in any way?
No, not at all. No.
There you go.
It is funny because Threads was one of the things I was going to mention to you. I think it's probably, I think I quite enjoy a horror film from time to time, but I think that's probably the scariest film I've ever seen. But then again, I suppose in a way, I think your character kind of gets out of it before it all gets too grim, doesn't he?
Yes, in fact, good observation. He's again, we're spoiling it for those who haven't seen it, but it's the best bit of writing I've ever known, and it's not in my favour. But basically, you start it's a 2-hour film. The first hour, you're led to follow this young couple, me and my wife-to-be girlfriend who's pregnant, and just normal, ordinary folk in Sheffield, just getting along with working class. With a backdrop of all this kind of stuff going off in the Middle East, very much like what is happening today, and you just get to know them, and all of a sudden, the worst thing possibly ever that could happen is that an atomic bomb is released over Sheffield, and the last thing you see is my character 1 hour in, somebody you've invested in as an audience, you've totally invested in him. For all his faults, he's a likable enough chap, and his wife. And he goes running, trying to find his wife, and it follows him running through streets of chaos and carnage. And all of a sudden, you don't see him again for the rest of the film, and it follows his wife, then his girlfriend, through the rest of the nuclear winter. But what a brilliant piece of writing to write a character that you invest in, you like, you go along with, you're ready to spend the next hour because you've got 2 hours of this, and he's taken away from you. And people say, what happened to it? That was a bit weird. And I go, no, that was the best bit, because that would be what happens. People would just go. They would be missing. You would never see them again. You don't know where they are, it's exactly what happens in such situations, and people don't ever see their loved ones again and don't know what happened, and it's horrific stuff. Barry Hines was a terrific writer, so it was a joy to work on that piece. And you can take it all away from me, but please don't take that film away from me. That was superb.
Is that your favourite then? I'm guessing, of all the body of work that you've done.
It's something I'm so proud of. I mean, favourite's a big word, and it's just I'm proud of that film. I was young. I mean, I was 24. I'd done quite a bit, but it was a massive thing. It won the BAFTA award, and as Aaron quite rightly said, there have been numerous polls and things. What's the worst, most horrifying film ever? And you think they're talking about the horror genre, but actually everybody throws Threads in and often as comes top of the list of the most frightening film you could ever possibly watch. I mean, that's something, and it's not a horror film, as it were. It's not a ghost story. It's not a slash 'em up movie, is it? It's quite an accolade to get for a film, a serious film. I loved it. I'm so very proud of it. But ID stands up there as well, and lots of things, and lighter stuff. I've been very fortunate in my career. I've been able to do a huge variety of things, from Home to Roost to ID, which is a bit like the A to Z of ID in itself in terms of coming from here to there. I remember John Thor always saying to me, keep coming out of a different corner, keep them guessing. And if I've done anything, I've done that. So that's that'll be the thing I'll be most proud of, really, that I've been able to keep coming out of a different corner.
Yeah, definitely. So I think diverse is, you've basically done what John Thor said and times it by 1,000,000, because there's that many.
I don't know, but
there's that many. You do, because you blend in as well. That's the thing. I think you're a very good character actor that people don't give you credit for. Is you could be in something. For example, you're in Coronation Street for ages, and I had no idea. Because my husband was watching Coronation Street, and I kept coming, and obviously I'm a fan, and I could, I'm pottering in the living room, I'm yelling at him about things, I'm watching a little bit of something that's going on, and I seen you on the screen, and I, when you have that moment where you think, and then you carry on, and it wasn't until after you left that I went, was him in that? And then you did it again. You keep doing it.
I like that. I like that. I mean, theatre has been, I say one thing, don't take away from it, but please don't take theatre away from me, because I that's where I really kind of excel and do my best work and love it. But that's offered me so many opportunities to do different things as well. Like, for example, I played Alan Bennett, and I'd never thought of myself as doing such a thing, but somebody saw that in me and said, would you play him in his kind of, his autobiographical play? And I remember going into the other room and having a little read of this play and trying to speak out loud as Alan. And I thought, well, have I got this? And I went in to see my wife next door, and I said, does this sound okay? And she said, well, I'd pay to go see you. Yeah, absolutely. Carry on. And I went on, and again, I immersed myself in him. And Alan doesn't know it, although I do know Alan, but he doesn't know it, that he travelled around North Yorkshire with me for about 3 months, because I had every tape he'd ever done in the cassette of my car. And I was listening to everything and all his intonations and this. But luckily, I'd worked with him many years ago, and he was... it's like waiting for the white smoke of the Pope, of the new Pope with Alan. He has to have a say in who plays him. If anybody's going to do him, then he has to have a say. So luckily, I'd worked on a film, a private function, many moons ago with Alan, and so he gave me the big thumbs up. But just to be able to then play Alan and just feel like I was something like him was an absolute joy. That's why I enjoy my job, because it just offers up these just so many opportunities to I guess it's to play really and to have fun. But I do enjoy the process, and I do enjoy. It's not about a lot of actors will be in it for the love me aspect of it. It's not about that. It's the actual absolute enjoyment of doing the damn thing. It is an extraordinary job, and that's why I now like working with actors on the other side of camera, because I feel, I don't know what my story is now as an actor. It'll come or it'll go. I don't know. That's its own thing. That does what it does. But I'm doing a lot of directing, and it just seems to suit me. Just like giving something back, and whilst I'm not one to arrogantly go, this and that and the other, blah 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 blah. I guess I am at my ripe old age. I have been around the block a few times, and I guess I do know some stuff. And I always kept my ears open, and it seems to be paying dividends being this side of the camera, because it's just a joy to take up something what is relatively new, but is associated with my job anyway. But to be able to run with it and to enjoy the pictures and the imagery, but also to be able to talk to actors in a way that I would like to be talked to, and that I can get responses from them that some other directors perhaps don't get. And long may it continue. I'm really enjoying myself. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say, I always think it's nice, not to take anything away from actual film directors, but I always think it's nice when you have an actor that either becomes a director or dabbles in both, because I just think, because they've been on the other side, they've had the bad experiences, they've had the nice ones, they've known what works, what doesn't, because they're quite vulnerable. it's nice to be in a safe set of hands and have somebody that isn't just going to go, well, Quentin Tarantino did this, so you will do it for me 57 times, or I will replace you. Because you probably know, you do get those people that read it in a book and think, why isn't it working? So when you have an actor that then becomes a director, you know, when you have the patience to go, well, maybe we could try this, maybe we can try that. There is a way. It's just finding it.
I have to find a balance as well, because most of the actors I work with know I've been around the block as doing their job. And so the last thing you want to come over as is somebody who's going, well, I could do it, or I do it this way or that way, blah, blah. So, you know, I treat them with kid gloves, and I respect them enormously, what they have to do, because it's not easy. Anybody who's ever been in front of camera or tried to do a bit of acting, they think they can do it till you actually have to do it. And then it's a different ball game. But I have such respect for them. I know what it takes. And therefore, I cut them as much slack, or I give them as much love and support as I possibly can, because you can't do any of that stuff without feeling that you're safe. Without the first thing that my job is as a director is to make every single actor just feel comfortable, feel relaxed, feel that they're being supported, and the things that you get back from that kind of attitude towards them is phenomenal. So I'm really getting a big kick out of this presently. Where it takes me, I have no idea. What is great is I don't go, oh, well, I know more than any other director then. I know nothing in comparison to some of these guys who know about their lenses, about the shot, about this, that, the other, although I know more than I'm letting you know, I'm learning very quickly. I always had a good brain, and I always had a visual brain. I've discovered that since I've started directing, that I can see pictures and I can see. But basically, there are many people out there who are great directors who know far more than I do, or I will ever know. I'm the first person to put my hands up and say, hey, I'm a novice, I'm learning, I'm just having a go. Thank you for bearing with me. You seem to like what I'm coming out with the pictures. Thank you very much. But the marriage of the acting stuff with that is something that I think, well, I do know, and I do know more than most in that area. And so I think it's just everything coming together has worked nicely for me, in my favor. The pieces are just coming together nicely in that realm. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Do you have like an ideal?
So sorry, Carly.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you have an ideal sort of creative idea in your head? If you could sort of send vibes out to the universe and go, this is the project that I want as a director, as and when I'm ready. Do you have anything like that? Any particular genre, story, or are you just kind of, I'm happy to sort of test the waters with anything that makes me happy in the moment? Or is it more regimented? I
think both. And so the second one is what I'm at the moment, that I'm being offered things that are tried and tested and up and running, and I'm doing them. I'm perfectly happy to do them. I'm 65 in August, and I feel, wow, I'm just happy to go to work, but I love going to work. I don't just turn up. I turn up with everything still going like as if I was 25 in my head, and my creativity and my passion. But I'm happy to do that for now. If, as a bonus, somebody ever goes, no, like you just said, we've got the wherewithal to do whatever you want to do. We've got the time and the money and the energy. What would you like to do? I guess I would love to write my own film, and I guess I'd like to direct that, and to have a complete vision on something and be mine. But you know what? If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. There's now I can do about it, and I'm not gonna chase that, because I'm too old, and that way lies madness. I think sometimes it would be lovely, but I'll just take what they give me and see what happens.
That's a really nice way of looking at it, to be fair, because sometimes you do. If you create something yourself, you do feel responsible for it in many ways. So if something isn't happening fast enough, you get angry. If something's happening but it's changing, you get angry. If everything stops altogether, you just get sad. And it can kind of stop other opportunities or situations personally or creatively, because you can find it, you get a bit of tunnel vision, and it's all because you created it.
Yeah, it's your baby. You're responsible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I've had to partner up with Jason because for years I had that myself. I was convinced I was writing the best sci-fi in the world. Reece, I'll tell you now, mate, it makes no sense. But I would not have it. I thought, no, I watch Star Trek Voyager. I know what I'm talking about. But because it's the first thing you start doing, and someone goes, "Oh, that's good," your mind just goes somewhere else. I think you need to have stuff that isn't yours, or you need to have somebody else to sort of be a second voice that says no.
It's a very fascinating job, and it's a million things, or it's not an exact science. That's the thing, and we all come at it and we all do our best, and it's right or it's wrong or it's good or it's bad or it's interesting or it's not or whatever. But I guess my looking back and being a little bit more sanguine, is that the right word, about things is that is that the right word? Is that I just want to be creative, and I don't mind in which arena or how famous or kind of never been thought of or heard of, whatever I'm doing. I just want to be creative. If I can be creative every day, I'm happy. If I can be creative and be involved in some work, I'm even more happy. But I've stopped chasing my tail and all that kind of mad ambition of a young man, a young person, which we all need to a degree, without a shadow of a doubt, when you're in this business. I'm not poo-pooing that, but I've got to a place where I don't carry that anymore. I don't carry a kind of, what about this and what about that? I could be in this, I could be in that, I could do this. I wonder what my agent thinks. I don't do any of it. And that's why I end up sitting on my butt sometimes for a while, because I just think, no, well, also there's a part of me that this may be an arrogance, but I just think, well, I've done so much. If they don't know where I am now, then that's fine. I'm happy with that. I've done my thing. If somebody is interested in using Reece Dinsdale for something, then that's fine. If they're not, they're not. But I'll just keep plodding on with what I do get offered and making the best of it and just being creative. That's all I need to do.
Yeah.
It's a great job. It's always been a great job. I love it as much today as I did the first day I left drama school. I love this job. Very lucky man. Very.
So I've seen that you do the acting masterclasses, or you have done, sorry. I was very upset that I couldn't get to see Reese's Pieces years ago. I was so mad. It was in Stoke, Aaron. It's in Stoke, that 20 minutes from us, man.
That was just 6 months ago. That one we finished in Stoke. But I did these out of COVID. It's a very long story, and that's the whole point of Reese's Pieces. I tell the story, so we've not got the time here, but basically I just wanted to chance my arm in being me, because I'd not always found it easy to be me. Maybe that's why I became an actor as a youngster, and I'd always had a bit of trouble in feeling I was good enough or in the right. If I met anybody who was supposed to be my better or my elder or more, a kind of a middle class person, I'd lose my tongue and my words would be all mixed up. So it wasn't something acting I could hide behind. I could use somebody else's emotions, somebody else's words and all that. And I found myself within that job, and that helped enormously, and the rest is history. But when my dad died 4 or 5 years ago, he just said, don't hide your light under a bushel. Just you've every right to speak up and be, tell your story. And so I thought, well, I'll do it then. I'd found a place to speak, which was Twitter, which I'd never expected to do anything in social media, but I did it, and I found my level, and I found that there was an audience to listen a little bit, and then I thought, go on then, in your dad's name, just have a little do a little 10 minutes to camera on Periscope on Twitter live and see if anybody listens. And I did it as well because it was COVID and we were all locked down. I thought, what a nice way it might be to just entertain people with a couple of stories about what I've done in my life and this, that, and the other. And it just went off the scale, and it became massive. And I was doing it, an hour and 3/4 by the end of these sessions, and people were listening in their thousands. And then somebody asked me to do it on stage, and I called it Reese's Pieces. We reopened the Leeds Playhouse with it as a kind of a ready-made format, a kind of me talking and then a questions and answers. And it just sprung from there. And I did about 10, 12 different venues when COVID had kind of not ceased, but wasn't so in the foreground, and loved it. And I only finished those, as I say, in Stoke 6 months ago. But it was just a way of giving back. It was a way of giving back, and I found my voice a little bit. Really, I should never have been a director because of my kind of inability to be understood or to make myself understood. But actually, I found my own way of talking over the years and my own way of engaging with people. And it might not sound the most eloquent or the most learned at times, but it's my way. And I just like to test myself, and directing's been the final hurdle, really, because it's all about communication to the crew and to the everybody who's involved, your actors and to the audience. So I'm getting there. and enjoying it enormously. I don't know if that answered your question, Carly, but
well, actually, to be fair, I was going to ask you earlier, and you just triggered my brain because it needs a bit of triggering. It's starting to wane. There wasn't a lot there to begin with, love. So, would you ever combine? Because obviously, when you talk about theatre, you talk so joyful, even if it's doing Reese's Pieces, which I know isn't theatre per se, but it's a similar thing. You get in the engagement, it's on a stage, and the same with directing. Would you ever marry the two and make that sort of move into that, or is that something you've considered? Or
well, I've got an idea actually, because you mentioned it, but I've started my own workshops just recently. I've just done the first one, and I'm about to do the second one. It was for actors, and we spent a whole day doing some scenes and me, throwing out a few ideas and telling them about my experiences and helping them to improve, perhaps. And I'm going to do another one, as I say, in a couple of weeks. But I also thought, because I've had so many people ask me who are not actors, what's the process like with acting and directors, and how you do stuff, and how do you get a scene together, and what do you do? And I thought, what a great thing. I might just put my toe in the water with this, and I might just set something up where I can get a bunch of actors, you say a dozen actors or something, and we can do some scenes, and we can also have, maybe 50 members of an audience to come and watch us, just observers, what we do and how we operate, and how do we get from A to B, and what do we talk about, and how do you break down a scene, and what do you, how do you find the tone and the temperature and the rhythms of everything? I think people will be totally fascinated, because they don't seem to know an awful lot about what directors do and our actors get to. I mean, I'm surprised. I'm surprised at how many people say, what does the director do then? And you think, what does he not do? What does she not do? It's the biggest job, more than anyone's job. A producer does a massive job and finds the money and finds the crews and picks the subject. But the director has to do it all. They start off with a script, and they have to shape that and all the rest of it. And then they have to put something together, and they go find the locations, they go find their actors, they go talk to the makeup department, they talk to the lighting cameraman and the sound department. And then they get a crew together, and you talk to the assistant director, and you bring it all together, one scene in about 25 minutes flat, and what with the actors. It's just a massive job, and it's fascinating. And it would be great to let people in, because I just think that's what it's about now. It's like, and taking the mystery away. Let's. I mean, sometimes mystery is great, and we know that. But I just think so many people would enjoy seeing what we do. You never know. I'm thinking about it seriously. We'll see how I get on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it is quite interesting, because people, you're right, they generally don't they have an idea that, you know, Steven Spielberg sits on a chair and shouts cut, and that's it, and then he wins an Oscar, and everybody else was rubbish, but they don't quite know why. And but you can't explain, because you think, well, I need half an hour to just explain one bit of the directing, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And it's everything. People would start waning out of it, but the more you tell them about what happens, the more they get involved, and then they will come across something where they need to kind of see it.
I think the fascinating thing is the work between the director and the actor. That's the fascinating thing to people as well, I think, is, yes, they would love to know what was that big light for over there, you know, and what's that wagon for over there, and that's a generator, is it? You know, but more than that, I think they'd like to go, how did you get that actor to that place? How did that actor? What did that actor do that made you take it in another direction or something? Or how do you speak to each other? What is the not the power play, but the opposite of that? What is the common ground between the director and the actor, and the fusion of your talents as to what creates something that's glorious? You know, and there's a million conversations about that. How you get there. So I'm just delving into these things. That's a little sideline I've got at the moment. As I say, I'm taking some time off because my mum died at Christmas, and I moved house, and there were two massive things in my life. And I thought, for the first time ever, I'm going to actually actively say I'm not going to be working. So I go back to working in August, and that takes me right through to Easter of next year. So I know I've got something, which is a very, very privileged position to be in. But I'm using the time well, because I don't think actors and directors can use the time well all the time, because it's a very insecure making business when you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. But I'm okay, and I'm doing that, using it wisely. And this acting thing is just something I'm throwing in now and again, just to keep my hand in as well, really, just to make sure I've not forgotten it all. Whichever side the camera is, I don't want to forget it. But that's what I'm doing.
Can you imagine that? Someone says, show me how you do it then, and then you go to do it and you go, I can't do it anymore.
No idea. Yeah, just do it yourself.
You know, I went to watch John Challis a few years ago when he had his book out, Being Boise, and he did a similar thing to the Reese's Pieces, maybe, but it was round the book, and it was fascinating, and everybody loved it. It was really, really nice. Yeah, I think you could do something like that, you know, at some point. Have like some sort of, not necessarily a autobiography as such, but, you know, a collection of kind of stories, and then an evening where you share the stories in a more personal way.
Yeah, people have asked me to, and again, I don't want to think like, who does he think he is? He's writing an autobiography or something. It's not the case. The point is, I kind of, people enjoyed what I was chatting about and talking about in my COVID things, in my Reese's Pieces, and people said you should write something about it, and it wouldn't be an autobiography as such, but perhaps just like some memories, just a few memories, you know. Just things that have happened along the way, kind of thing. And, you never know. Reese's Pieces was very much that in the theatre, was just me just waffling on about anything that came to mind, whether it be about television, theatre, whatever, or my life, outside of all that. But yeah, it could be fascinating. I think you don't have to be the most celebrated actor in the world to be able to write something down and then people to enjoy it.
I think you just have to be a nice person, a nice, honest, genuine person with a good soul who's got a bloody good sense of humour. That's all you really need. And you're making me and Aaron chuckle, so. You'll be chapter 34. Okay, you too. I think so. And I just have been very lucky to have met so many extraordinary people that people go, get away. You've worked with them. I have. I've just done, this bloke from Normanton, this kid from West Yorkshire, just happened to work with some of the most famous people in the firmament whoever, I'm not going to say them here, but they're off the scale, okay, Jack Lemmon and Peter Ustinov, and it's just like everybody, you could be David Bowie and it's just mad.
And why shouldn't I tell my tale? It could be fun. In fact, I tell the tale on stage, and people love it. I've got ghost stories even. There you go. I don't know. I'm just happy trundling along.
If you've got ghost stories, Jason's going to be phoning you morning, noon, and night when he hears this.
I've got a great ghost story, but I can't tell it here. I've got to save it for either the book or a performance, because it's great. It's a theatre one as well. It's fantastic. Anyway, I'm not the guy that believes in ghosts.
You've got us all phobic.
Yeah, well, that's it. I'll come back and tell it maybe another time.
Oh, definitely. Aaron, did you have a question you can think of?
What did I have? Sorry, 1 second. I guess the only it's kind of touching on your directing work and kind of what you've got now, and kind of obviously you've worked with, like, as you mentioned, you've worked with so many great kind of people both on and off screen. And it's kind of like, do you ever feel like because I know you worked with, and as you mentioned, you played Alan Bennett, and you've worked with him as well, and people like Jimmy McGovern, who I know you've worked with, or even like Kenneth Branagh, when you were in Hamlet. Do you feel like you were kind of, even back then, you were subconsciously picking up things that you could then translate into your directing work going forward?
Well, I wasn't thinking of it, Aaron, at the time, no, because I didn't know I'd ever direct. But, I think those experiences, just when you become a director, they're just all there for you. You remember it all, and you think, oh, yeah, okay, now I'm given the chance to play with the big toy box. Those things come up. It's been extraordinary. That gig was the maddest of the lot. Basically, I once read at the back of the Sunday Times or something, they used to do a day in the life or a life in the day of, was the back page of the supplement. And it was Ken Branagh's. And it was fascinating. It was and he just seemed like a normal bloke. It felt like me. But he'd become this, knight of the realm, and he liked his football, and he just talked about this and being a normal guy. And I thought, I've never done this in my life. And I thought, right, I'm going to write Ken a letter, and the only letter I've ever written in all these years. And I knew I was working with a mate of his in a play at Hampstead Theatre, and I mentioned this, and he said, I'll get you Ken, a letter to Ken, or he's at Shepperton or wherever. So I wrote this letter. Actually, it was Making Frankenstein, the movie at the time was Ken, and I wrote this letter. I said, listen, Ken, I read this thing. I've always admired you. I'd love to chew the fat with you at some point if ever you get the chance. And he wrote me this letter back, and it was on Frankenstein headed notepaper, and he just said, Reece, absolutely joy to get your letter. When I've got this monster up and running, let's get our heads together and chew the fat. So I've got this letter still. It's the only letter I've kept, really. And as good as his word, we didn't get round to that. Instead, he asked to see me for his next project as Guildenstern in Hamlet, the big movie he was going to make. And I went along and we chatted, and we just got on like a house on fire. He gave me the gig, and it was me and Tim Spall as Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. And I kid you not, it had in this film the biggest stars you could ever imagine. Okay, and there's me and Tim doing our thing, but even the lesser-known stars, the British people, were Kate Winslet and Derek Jacobi and Richard Bryars. But then we're talking in small roles. We're talking Robin Williams and Billy Crystal. We're talking Charlton Heston. We're talking... well, it was very funny. One day I'm doing a scene and I'm in full regalia with Tim, and we're chatting away. And all of a sudden, walking across the palace at Blenheim, or at Shepperton anyway, was this very old man, and he just looked like an old version of Jack Lemmon until he got really close. And then I realized it was an old version of Jack Lemmon. Jack Lemmon's walking towards us and coming saying, hello, how you doing, please? It was just ridiculous. It was Dame Judi Dench. It was just everybody you could think of. And I've not mentioned half of them. And there's me and Tim laughing our heads off, really, because it was like, what are we doing here? But we had it's actually, I say that, but we got a proper fee. Tim and I got a proper film fee. We were on it and we got a decent amount of money, let's be honest, for what we were doing for the amount of the weeks. These big stars didn't get anything. They were doing it because it was Ken Branagh and the love of the film, and they were just on expenses. So we worked out we've done a movie where we've earned more than all those people put together. It was like, hello, this is ridiculous. I once got a call sheet and I was near the bottom, and all these names were on it for the day who were coming in to do a scene. And I've got to find that because I've got to frame that and put that up somewhere. It's just
that should be the book cover.
Yeah.
That could be a book cover.
That could be it. I've got it somewhere, and it's just ludicrous, the names on it.
I was going to say, did that go on your CV that, Reece Dinsdale, higher fee than Jack Lemmon and Gerard Depardieu? And...
Yes, all of the team was in it, wasn't he? He had a line. Even Ken Dodd was in it. He played Yorick. The dead fool. They did a little flashback to him, and it was Ken Dodd. Straight, massive film, massive experience. I've been really lucky, haven't I? When I look back at these, I wasn't even thinking about these things today, and there they come to the fore. I don't know what your question was, but
yeah, you definitely answered it. Yeah.
No, I've done my bit.
Oh, you've got to change your Twitter handle now. You've got to just put in your bio, earns more than Judi Dench.
Yeah. I don't know what I've put on there. I think I've got a Bob Dylan lyric on there or something like that. Yeah. Just have a go kind of thing.
Oh, brilliant. We should probably let you go, to be fair, soon. I do have one...
the dog now. I've got to walk the dog. I must say, I was going to
walk the dog.
Can I go, please? No, I didn't mean it. But it's like she's outside here. I can hear her.
Well, I just have one last thing for you, if you don't mind. This is to punish Jason, basically, because he's off doing director things.
Ooh.
And I'm not involved, and he's not here. I'm going to make his life a little bit miserable in the US for a little bit. So I'm ordering one of them t-shirts. Remember I mentioned, Aaron, I'm getting you one helping. Yeah, the Off You Pop one.
Off You Pop t-shirt.
He has no idea what English people say. This whole thing is going to confuse him when he comes to edit it, because it's 3 English people talking, and he's going to be like, what?
What are you saying? Yeah.